I don't just talk about other people's stuff, I also make my own. Books in particular. To date, I have 4 books you can check out on Amazon. Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and the short story collection Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Hop on down to the description for Amazon links to all 4 books. Enjoy whichever ones you read, and enjoy the video.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Omni viewer, and I know I'm a little late to the party getting to reviewing this figure because they wound up being so hard to find after the first release, but I finally got my hands on a Gorosaurus from the Playmates Godzilla Toho series line. So naturally, I'm going to talk about it.
Like many other figures in the series, Gorosaurus comes in open display packaging with his tail detached. Interestingly, the box specifies him as being the 1968 version of the dinosaur, meaning he's the one that appears in Destroy All Monsters as opposed to King Kong Escapes. Not that there's really a big difference, mind you. Everything is held in place with zip ties, though the ones securing his feet are wrapped up around the ankles, something I haven't seen done with other figures in the series. I guess this might be due to his narrow feet, which might slip out otherwise. Don't worry though, just lifting him up slightly allows you to cut the things without touching the figure itself. Once removed, the tail is inserted with a simple plug and socket arrangement, and the effect is complete. The figure's body is predominantly elephant gray, with a sandy white color for the belly and claws, and a fleshy pink for inside the mouth. Paint application looks pretty good to me. There's a nice gradient for the belly, and I can't see any bleed on the claws or teeth. The eyes are well painted, but they are a bit uneven. The right eye is focused forward, while the left eye is focused up. Since you can't really see both eyes at the same time, he doesn't look cockeyed from the front, and it's only a slight variation, but it still exists. The paint on the arms looks a bit glossier than the rest of it, but again, this difference is very slight. Curiously, no paint is applied to the spikes on Gorosaurus' back, even though they should be the same color as his claws. No clue why these were neglected. Now, the Toho series is supposed to be similar to the Bandai Movie Monsters series in terms of detail, though how well that works out seems to depend on the monster. Some, like Jet Jaguar and Rodan, look really good, while others, like Shin Godzilla, are a mess. Gorosaurus is definitely in the good category, though he's not necessarily the most film accurate. The texturing looks fine, recreating the dinosaur's rounded, bumpy scales quite accurately, and only the bottoms of his feet lack detail to accommodate the trademark stamps. Once we get to the finer details, though, peculiarities start to emerge. As mentioned, the spikes on his back are not painted, but this is not the only odd thing about them. There are also noticeable gaps between them, and their sizes are random, going from big to small to medium with no apparent order. On the usual design, the spikes are close together and gradually get bigger as they go down the back before shrinking again at the tail. This is an unusual change that I don't really understand the logic behind. Similarly, the folds in his skin are true to the design, but there's an unusual asymmetry to them. Some might argue that this is due to the pose, but I'm not entirely sure that's true. Now yes, the Toho series figures are usually sculpted in poses of some sort to make them look more dynamic. Gorosaurus does have a pose, but it's not nearly as dramatic as other kaiju in the line. Heck, it's bordering on neutral, with only a few bends here and there. The folds on the front make sense for the way his body angles, but the irregularities on the back don't. It's just an odd design choice. We then get to the head and neck area. Due to the pose he's in, Gorosaurus is turning his head slightly to the right. This results in that side of his neck being a bit smushed while the left side is extended, and the shoulder joints for the arms are uneven as a result. It's a bit weird when you're not looking at him from any direction other than a profile. As for the head, it looks mostly accurate save for 2 details. First and foremost, Gorosaurus usually has visible ear holes behind his eyes, right at the rear point of the eyebrow ridge. On this figure, the shape of the ridge is maintained, but no ear holes are carved in. The overall shape of the head also feels a bit broader and more elliptical than the original design, which is more like a triangle. In fact, it almost seems partly influenced by the T-Rex from The Last Dinosaur and Attack of the Super Monsters, though only slightly. Here, if you check out how he looks beside the smaller but much more accurate Mezco Gorosaurus figure, you can get a much clearer idea of what I'm talking about. The Mezco figure is even in a pose of its own, which further drives home earlier points I made about how that shouldn't affect the folds in his skin. Okay, so I just did some serious nitpicking about this figure's design, I realize that. But with all of that being said, it really is just nitpicking. When you step back and see the whole thing, it still looks like Gorosaurus, and while Gorosaurus might not have the flashiest design as a regular theropod dinosaur, I, as a fan, would not confuse him for any other dinosaur. Not even the comparison to Lord Tyrannus regarding the head is that close. Besides, the other good Toho series figures also have their quirks. Rodan's head is a bit flatter than it should be, and Jet Jaguar has tiny baby arms, so Gorosaurus is in good company. Compared to the mess that is the Shin Godzilla figure, though, Gorosaurus is a masterpiece. Naturally, the figure is articulated. Head, arms, legs, and tail can all move, though only the head and tail have unlimited range. The limbs have their limits, but that's to be expected, so I won't dock points for that. Now, when the head and tail are turned, it does expose the smooth parts of the body where they attach, but that's unavoidable with a design like this. Interestingly, when you move the legs forward, they are angled in such a way that the feet come together. This is actually a great detail because it's perfect for Gorosaurus' signature move, the kangaroo kick. That is, if you can get him to balance. It is possible, but it requires you to lean the figure against another figure for support. Achieving that is not easy, but it can be done. When placed alongside other figures from the Toho series, or alongside Bandai figures, we see that Gorosaurus is a bit on the short side. That's actually not a terrible thing, since Gorosaurus is supposed to be shorter than other kaiju. As a result, he scales just fine with these other figures. It looks even better if you can achieve the kangaroo kick pose. So is the figure worth it? Well, if you can find it for a reasonable price, then yes. As I said, it's got peculiar inaccuracies, but overall, it's still recognizable as Gorosaurus.
And hey, even with the flaws, at least it's not that ridiculous Shin Godzilla figure. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off. Well, I'm sure I'll find a spot for him at some point.
Congratulations, you reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to consider supporting us on Patreon. Of course, the other way to support us is to go to Amazon and check out our books, Operation Red Dragon, The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, The Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Also check the description for links to DeviantArt and other platforms we operate. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.